What is up, and welcome back to another episode of The Boss Life with Bonds. I am your host, 𝘽𝙪𝙨, and it is a beautiful day, and I just realized that I went live on the wrong Instagram page. No, I didn't. Okay, that's right. Technology. So fun. All right, guys, we're kicking off the Self-Healing Summer series, and I decided to do it a little bit different than previously intended. So it was supposed to be a Saturday, like kind of summer school type session thing. And one of the cool things about being able to, I guess, run your own business, but more importantly, run it from a feminine perspective, is that we get to be in flow and that we get to build these things out of being, what's the word I'm looking for? In tune with your intuition, right? Because when I was starting to put it together, I remember thinking, this is going to be a lot of work during the summer. Do you really want to work through the summer? Do you want to slow down and relax? Because summer seasons are usually slower anyway, so just relax. But the piece of me, the hustle, grind, got to perform harder, got to work, and he's like, no, we can't sleep. We have to make this happen. We have to go. And I've really been talking a lot about listening to your intuition and listening to your highest self. And there was so much resistance to doing this on a Saturday, but I kept ignoring it. And in case you haven't been listening or you're new to this space, when I talk about internal resistance, I always talk about looking in two different places to see where it comes from. Your internal resistance, or your internal distaste, desire, or struggle, right, to get something done that you feel you should or that you have to do, comes from one or two places. This is my bonology. I've created it, and this is how I use my life. It comes from either your highest self telling you, hey girl, the reason why you don't want to do this is because it's not a part of our future path timeline and it is a waste of time. That's all. But then it could also be coming from another version of you, like your inner child who may have an open wound, or your shadow who may need to be integrated to experience this situation with less resistance and more courage. So I know that was a lot to lay in the beginning, but we'll be talking a little bit more about this in the Self-Healing Summer series. So with that said, I felt resistance to doing it on a Saturday, even though it was something I felt I should do in my business, and I kind of wanted to do too. But it turns out I would rather do it as a podcast and email series, right? And all that means is I'm going to be talking about it on the podcast. There's also going to be an email series for people that like to read more than sit and watch the videos or listen to the podcast. So you'll get a little piece of it in the podcast. If you sign up for the email series, I'm going to send you an email a week. And each email will also contain a link to a YouTube video where you can go watch, and I'll go further in depth with it. And what I decided to do for this is similar to what I did with the Mindset Makeover one, where I offer the option to pay what you want. So you can do it all for free. I'm going to put these series and these learning lessons and these building blocks for doing self-healing on your own. I'm going to put them out there for free. But if you watch a video or you get, maybe it just does wonders for you, or you appreciate it, or you want to show thanks, I'm going to leave that option for you there as well. And you can also send this to people that would benefit from something like this. So if you're interested in that, joining that email series, drop the words interested in the comments if you're watching live. If you're listening to this on the podcast, right, like on YouTube or on Spotify or Apple Podcast, go ahead and shoot me a DM, or on YouTube, just drop the comment interested, and then we'll shoot you a message back and get your email address and get you on the list to receive that. So anywho, jumping into today, the intro to this series, we're talking about the story that you tell yourself. When I think about self-healing, the first thing that comes to mind is this story that you tell yourself. I got you, mama. And we talk a lot about how you really master your mindset, right? It's more than just thinking positively. It's more than just listening to motivational speeches and stuff. Those are great tools. But when we talk about rewiring your mindset, it's all about the stories that are woven into your identity and the stories that your ego believes to be true. Now, again, if you're new to the community, or if you're new to this conversation, your ego is not a bad thing. Your ego is actually this really cool part of your brain that protects itself from anything that it doesn't believe to be true, so that you can act in accordance with who you believe you are. Listen to that sentence again. Your ego is the part of your brain that protects it from things that it does not, that are not in alignment with who it thinks it is, to protect you from some fuckery. This is a beautiful and yet freaking like a cursed tool if I ever saw one. Why so? Because if you believe yourself to be something magnificent, right? And this is where the bad connotation of ego comes from. If you believe yourself to be the most confident, the smartest, the fastest, the best looking, all these things, your ego says, no, that's it. That's a fact. Not hearing nothing from nobody else. And that's how you see people who are kind of stank or cocky become extremely successful in life, because this is the story they told themselves and their ego was like, all right, got it. And so that ego is always looking for, well, now this is more your subconscious, which is kind of where your ego is, but it's always looking for proof that this is true. And so if you have a great view of yourself, a positive self-image of yourself, the story that you tell yourself is something positive that propels you forward, now your ego is working on your side. But for most of us that have been through some levels of like deep trauma, it doesn't work that way for us. I mean, it does, but it's just like with the opposite belief system. For those of us that have had some serious, like deep-rooted, painful trauma, our ego has created this idea that we are less than, not as good as, not as talented, right? So the term self-fulfilling prophecies come from, because these are the stories that are interwoven into our ego. And it's like, you can never make it. Being rich means that you'll become a bad person. Being rich means you have to work very hard. You should just settle. Trying hard is going to break your heart because it never works out anyways. You shouldn't open up your heart to love because everybody that you let in, it breaks your heart. Why would you try to go to school and get a new degree or do something better? You've never been good at school. Do you see this? Do you see how now your ego is your enemy? Because it's like this story that it is telling you. And it's doing its hardest, its best. It's working day and night to make sure that any other belief systems that try to come in won't. Okay? So hear me out. The stories that you tell yourself are 1,000 times more important than you realize. And most of us don't even realize that we're telling ourselves a story. Another way to look at it, aside from self-fulfilling prophecies or the stories, are generational curses. Now, I 100% believe in generational curses. Don't get it twisted. I do believe that there gets to be, and we're seeing it more and more now, there gets to be that person in that bloodline that says the buck stops here. The shit stops here with my family. Right? And a lot of people are either too afraid, or I guess afraid is the best word, because deep down inside they know what it entails to do the work, whether it's just for themselves or if it is for, their children, their children's children. But because of the ego, because of the story that they tell themselves that they're not good enough, that they're not strong enough, that they're not consistent. Let me think of some ones that I saw that my clients wrote, that they give up too easily, that they have too much self-doubt. Like this, if this is the story that you tell yourself about yourself, imagine how powerful it's going to be when it comes time for you to show up for yourself. What story will you hear? You'll hear those same words over and over again. So I want to tell you 2 quick stories of the power of your own story. Now, I tell my story all of the time, so I wanted to not use mine on this first episode because y'all hear my junk all the time. But one of my clients, one of my nearest and dearest, and now she's a close personal friend, and she's just been with me through so much since COVID. We started working together when I was a personal trainer in the gym. And I remember her telling me stories about how before she started working on her health and she was over 300 pounds and she was not 30 yet, that growing up, or at least in her teens and early 20s, she did not think that she would live to see 30. And that blew my mind, because the woman that I saw had been doing a lot of work on her own weight. She did get, I think, the sleeve to help with the weight loss, and she had come such a long way. And she was beautiful. She was stunning to me. She is stunning to me. But the story that she told herself, no matter how much work we did on the outside, because this was before COVID, so I was only working with her in the gym. We did so much work on the outside, but it didn't matter, because she still saw herself as a 300-pound girl that wasn't going to make it past 30. And so it was a blessing and a curse for both of us for COVID, because once the gym shut down, I had already wanted to do more life coaching than just fitness, but I wanted to combine the two. And with the opportunity of COVID, I had no choice. I moved my gym clients to online training. And for those that were having a hard time working out without me, we switched to life coaching, because I was like, let's figure out why you can't do this without me there telling you to do it, because that's a real thing too. Let's talk about why your self-doubt is so much more powerful than wanting to be fit and strong and confident. You want to be confident, but your self-doubt stopping you. Let's get to the root of what that is. And she was one of the people that trusted me enough to do that and go through that, open up her heart to the journey of self-healing. And we went through so many stages together, and she's went from that woman who didn't think she was going to live past 30, and at the time had a job that was very physically demanding on her, right? Because she was still getting in shape, and so it was like exhausting even to a super healthy person. They ran their employees into the ground. One of those, if you pass out, they'll step over you and keep going type environments. So she wasn't feeling valued, which is something women need to feel, humans and women too, specifically because we're emotional. She was physically drained. She really couldn't keep up. When you're physically tired, you don't have the energy to do anything else. And she was emotionally drained. She's being walked all over. So she's just not in a good place. Flash forward, that we continuously worked on life coach. We continuously worked on her mindset. We continuously, like when she would go back to her default thinking, which is normal, right? I still do it sometimes. When we go back to her old ways of thinking, we would continue to rewrite the story, shift her perspective, rewrite the story, shift her perspective, rewrite the story, go back and heal that wounded memory, rewrite the story. We would continuously do this. And now this woman sends me selfies of her in an airplane in the sky. She's in school to be a pilot, something she never thought she'd be able to do. She always wanted to, but figured she weighed too much and that she wasn't smart enough. Why? Because of the story that she told herself. The reason why I always am talking about self-healing, healing your wounds, mindset, is because you can become super successful a number of ways. But it's only a matter of time until those deep-rooted beliefs about yourself will come to the surface. And for a lot of us, that's why you look at people whose lives look perfect or they're doing so good. Why'd they mess up? Because you can only run from your mind, your memories for so long. You can only distract them, suppress them for so long. Triggers come up for a reason. There's a reason why we respond a certain way to things. Because even if they're not consciously in full view of you, like you see them every day, like, oh, I don't like my weight, you can see that. Or, oh, I don't like my face, you can see that. There are wounds that you can't see that only get activated when triggered, right? And if we are not going to be proactive about finding them and reconciling them, they will come up on their own. And in some cases, most cases, it is an inopportune time. It's never the best time. So I just wanted to use, it's just one story of a woman who was able to change her life's outcome based on the story that she told herself. I'm just an overweight girl that's never going to make it, to I can change my life. I can do hard things. I'm capable of doing this. I am smart enough to fly a plane, and I am healthy, right? Another story, one of my favorites, my girl Tisha, okay? Tisha's fucking badass. When I first met Tisha a couple years back and we were doing Zoom workouts together via Zoom, did I say via Zoom? We were doing Zoom workouts because of COVID, and little did I know, this woman had like small town girl syndrome, where she didn't live in a big city or even remotely big city, and just the future, in her own words, just kind of seemed hopeless. Like she's going to go get a basic job and going to do this and then, work, live, die, whatever. And she never really saw, I guess, extraordinary as being a part of the timeline for her life. But we started working together just on fitness, and then eventually she started getting into self-healing on her own, And long story short, she's now a published author. She started her own business and she's helping me co-found this business. The woman just jumped out of a plane like a week or two ago. And it's just funny how quickly things can change when you decide that you're going to stop telling yourself the lame story that I'm just a small town girl, or that I've never done this before, so it's hard. I love to remind people that you do realize you never did anything that you never did before you did it, right? Those of us that have kids, you never knew how to raise a baby before you had a baby, and then you had the baby, and then you learned how to raise the baby, right? You didn't know how to drive a car before you drove a car, and then you drove a car, and then you figured out how to drive it. Some of us are stunting our own growth because before we even give ourselves a starting chance at something, we just hit the play button on the lame ass song that's playing in the background of our head at all times. Well, I can never do that. Well, that's not for me. This is how we create self-fulfilling prophecies, because we'd rather listen to the familiar lame story than even dare to dream that something more could be available to us. I think that it's very interesting that people are so quick to throw affirmations in the trash and say that they don't work, and say they're corny, because think about it. If the story that you tell yourself, yes, it's a story and it's more than a one-liner affirmation, but nonetheless, it's the same thing. It is something that has been repeated so many times that it has now become a thought that is a belief, that is a deep-rooted belief, like in your ego. This is who I am, right? And for most of us, in the examples that I just gave, those affirmations that you've been telling yourself are not positive ones. They are negative, or at the very least, not very encouraging ones. I'm overweight. I'll never lose weight. Everyone in my family does this. Nobody in my family went to college. Nobody in my family's ever been rich. Every woman in my family's been a single mother. Every woman in my family's been a nurse. Every woman in my family struggled or had an alcoholic husband or has been abused. Like, think of the things that you say repeatedly, that when you're talking about your life, the things that you say, and maybe you're not a talker, think about the things that you think on a regular basis. When you're looking on social media and you're looking at women who are building businesses, making millions, living their dream life, manifesting, when you're looking at women who just have like those goal bodies and you see them working out and eating healthy and making it look easy, when you see whatever it is that you desire, right? Whether it's wealth, whether it's fame, whether it's better health, whether it's confidence, whatever it is, when you're looking at these things on social media or in life on TV, what is your initial response? That's your homework. When you're on social media or TV or wherever you consume content, I want you to ask yourself, or just pay attention to your body. Does your heart start fluttering, like you get like, oh my gosh, that could be me? Does your stomach start fluttering, right? Or do you get tense? Do you notice maybe your heart, instead of like fluttering happily, like it gets hot in this area? Like you're a little frustrated, you're a little angry. Notice if you tense up, or notice if you just immediately, maybe there's no bodily response, but maybe there is an immediate thought that's like, they make it look easy, or must be nice. These are the stories that you tell yourself. Your brain, your subconscious that understands images, sees something that you perceive to be enjoyable: health, happiness, love, marriage, wealth, fame, whatever it is that you're trying to do, right? You're looking at it with your eyes, getting excited about it, and then immediately you're rejecting it, like, yep, that's not for us. Oh, that'll never happen. Oh, that's fake. Oh, that's too far from me. So you don't even give yourself a fighting chance. And this is the way the majority of us exist. We see others doing the very same things that we want, that we are denying ourselves the idea of even entertaining, and we immediately swat it away like it's not possible for us. The reason why I feel, or this is like kind of like science or just facts, I don't know, data has shown me, the reason why people don't like to do positive affirmations is because they expect it to happen overnight. They expect to say something positive about themselves, about their lives, about their business, about their body, about anything. And they say, all right, coach, I did it. I did 5 days this week. I got up and I looked in the mirror and I said I was beautiful, or I wrote it down, and then it didn't change. And it's like, well, Remember those other stories and those other responses that you were having to seeing things that you wanted? Do you remember that story that you told yourself? Well, you've been telling yourself that story. You've been reciting those affirmations in your mind for a lot longer than 5 days. And I'm always talking about, remember, we learn through intensity or repetition. You've got 30, 40, 50, 60 years of repetitive negative thoughts. It's very foolish to think that 5 days of thinking good thoughts first thing in the morning and then driving to work and forgetting about those thoughts is going to be the game changer. That's why we call it work. A lot of people, like, they treat the inner work like it's a, what's something we don't really care about? I don't know, like a checklist. Like, okay, I did my affirmations. Am I healed yet? Okay, I did my affirmations. Am I confident yet? It's like clients, like they'll be like, hey, I worked out once this week. Why am I not skinny, coach? I logged my food that one day 2 weeks ago. Why am I not skinny yet? And it's like, boo-boo. Like, this is an accumulation. Like, your body, your mind, and your body learns through either intensity or through repetition. Right? So yes, what am I saying is that you get to keep going. You get to stop giving up so easily on yourself. If your limiting belief, if the story that you tell yourself is that I quit easily, why then, when you are giving yourself the opportunity to prove yourself wrong, do you make the intentional choice to give up on yourself easily and fulfill the prophecy? I had to call a client out on that this weekend. I was like, hey, I pulled up your intake form. I looked at what you said your biggest struggle was. It's isolation. So here you are not showing up for this community, for these coaching calls, for this packaging that you paid for. You're self-isolating. How can I help you get past your limiting beliefs and help you reach your goals if you're going to continue to self-isolate? I can't drive to your house and I'm not going to. So now the shoe's on your foot. You get to show up. You get to respond. You get to post in the group. You get to engage with other women and encourage them in the group if isolation is your kryptonite. Right? If giving up easily on yourself is your self-fulfilling prophecy, then that means that you get to be hyper vigilant about your triggers or about the story that usually happens. What do I mean by that? You'll start to notice patterns on your self-healing journey. If you're paying attention, you will notice cycles. And one of my cycles is that when times would get hard, Miss Full of Faith, Miss Speaking over everybody, Miss Praying over everybody at church all the time, Miss Mama Bond's church mom, when things like I could believe for everybody else, but I can never believe it for myself. So when things would get hard for me, my faith went out the window and I started having pity parties, spiraling downward. God doesn't love me. Right? Like just turning into a pile of mush. And eventually the tides would turn because remember, life is like this. Life is cyclical. And so there's good seasons, there's bad seasons, there's ebbs, there's flows. And those ebbs are meant to teach you how to grow. Those ebbs are meant to form you into the you that you are wanting to become so that you can have more. But I was failing that test every time, every single damn time. Like times would get hard and I would freak out and swear God didn't love me. And I was like, all right, oh my God, like, can you not? No? Okay, God, just give it to her. Give it to her. Oh my gosh, give it to her. Just fix it. We'll try again. And what I realized is that those seasons would be so far apart that when the test would come again, I would forget what I was supposed to be overcoming. And so this is such a testament to why it's important to put yourself in positions where you can grow and where you can be challenged. Because when your triggers happen and you forget what they are because you only commit to your fitness journey one time a year. So you know that your Achilles heel is giving up on yourself, but you forgot what happened last year because that was so long ago. So I want to encourage you, like if you're someone that starts and stops, the solution is not just to take a break and then try again in a year when you've forgotten what your triggers are. And so then you mess up again. Like, no, that's a really slow, painful way to learn. What I recommend, and I say this all the time, if at first you don't succeed, try the fuck again. Because the more that you keep trying and you get up and you dust yourself off, and the more that you keep trying and you dust yourself off, you'll be like, oh, okay. If you're smart, you'll ask, and I'm always asking God, like, hey, what do I need to learn to get past this level? What am I missing? Can you please show me? Oh, it's that? Okay, cool. And so some of us got to get to that point where we're like, what is the story that I keep telling myself? What is the thing that what needs to come out and be left here? So that, what do I need to believe? What do I need to let go of? And what do I need to believe so that this can come to pass, so that I can believe in myself to do these things? What do I need to do, right? That's what we should be asking. got a little sidetracked. We're almost done here. The second thing that I think is so funny when it comes to affirmations is that people would always tell me, Coach, this is weird. Telling myself these things, telling myself I love myself, telling myself that I'm going to have a successful business when right now it doesn't look like it, telling myself that I'm going to have a happy marriage even though I've never had a healthy relationship. Like, this stuff sounds dumb. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. This is dumb. This is weird. This is awkward. And so is looking yourself in the mirror or avoiding the mirror and telling yourself really mean things every single day and expecting something different to happen. Because your negative thoughts and your beliefs about yourself and the story that you told yourself up till now has created the life that you're currently living. So I think it's weird that you're going to keep talking to yourself like that and expect something good to come from it. Now, which one's more weird? Because if the negative self-talk has created the negative self-image, don't you think it might make sense that maybe some positive self-talk and some positive views might create a positive self-image? Sounds like 2 + 2 = 4 to me. Maybe I'm crazy. At the end of the day, the whole reason why we're doing this series, why I want to bring this up and why I'll continue to do it every summer. Last year, we did a shadow work masterclass in September, and I kind of feel like this is going to be the ongoing theme is self-healing, right? We want more out of our lives. All of us do. Whether we want to, whether we'll admit that to ourselves or not, we all want a better life. We want the best that we can be. But part of us don't pursue that better life because we know deep down inside that if we want more, we have to become more. We get to become more. And the idea of having to work even harder, especially you women who have been through hell and back, the idea of having to work even harder is overwhelming. It's exhausting. But I'll tell you one thing after I sip my nootropics. You'll have a lot more energy for doing the inner work and self-healing when you stop whoring your soul and your time off to everybody but yourself. You don't have the energy to focus on yourself because oftentimes, and I've seen this in my client communities, the loudest cheerleader for everyone in the group is the one who is not cheering for herself. We start trying to live vicariously through people. We're like, I'm going to cheer her on. Go, Bonnie, you're doing so great. I'm so proud of you. I'm like, well, when's your turn? What are you doing? I love the support. I do. I really do. Thank you. But you're next. What's up? Right? We either whore our time away to our jobs. We do the I'm too busy to focus on me thing. Cool. Keep busying yourself right into some kind of health condition. Your body will make a way for you to make time for yourself. Don't you worry. When you stop giving away so much of yourself, you'll start to feel whole again. And you'll start to feel, understand, and see the need for you to come back to who you're truly meant to be. Pick up the pieces of yourself that you have left in your trauma, that you have left in your past, that you have left in relationships that didn't serve you, that you have left in ministries, jobs, and organizations that didn't deserve you. And now that you don't have anything left to give, you're like, well, I'll encourage other women. And I love that for you. I really do. I honestly do love that for you. But I also don't want you to just sit around and live through other women. I also want you to realize that no matter what age you're at, no matter what stage you're at, no matter how much disappointment that you've already faced, it's never too late for you to go back and make amends with that version of you that's still hurting. It's never too late to recreate the story of your life. Literally, like there's science where like they start aging you backwards. I know some people, I met them. Seriously, guys, it's never too late. So I'm going to wrap it up, guys. When I think about self-healing to become the best version of you, and I think about self-healing in reference to becoming more, right? If you want more, you got to become more. The first thing I think of is I know a lot of people that are successful, Bonnie, that didn't have to do all this inner work that you talk about. Because that's me. I'm always looking I'm the scientist, I'm the investigator. Somebody tells me something new that my brain doesn't have any data about. Before I just accept it as truth, I'm like, Googling my ass off, Well, really prove it. And so when I hear people talk about, if you want to become more, you want more, you just become more, and you just do this, and you just follow this formula, and blah, blah, blah. Like basically everything a lot of business coaches are saying out there. And it's like, why did they get results faster than me? And I know somebody needs to hear this. Why is it easier for other people? Why did they get there sooner than me? Why did they get there? Why did they get their happy ending, their marriage first? Why did they get the promotion on the job? I've been busting my ass. Why did they get their body transformation? They literally just started. I've been doing this shit for years. Like, those of us that have more work to do, and I don't just mean pounds, I don't just mean you need more years at school and education. Those of us that have more work to do on ourselves, those of us that have more years of deep trauma, it's going to take you a little bit longer, right? It's not always so easy. There are some people with deep trauma and deep years of pain that, like I said, they may be able to push it down for a while and use that to fuel their building of their brand, their empire, their new life. But you can only do that for so long. I didn't want that. I think I told God, like, in the beginning when I was starting my business, I was like, I don't want to rapidly grow. I'm scared because I know that what comes up must come down. And if I go up real fast, I'll come down real fast. I will take my time because I want to work on me so that when I get to the places that you have called me to be, that you created me to be at, I'm the woman I need to be. I don't want to skip steps. I don't want to jump. I don't want to do these leaps that I'm not ready for just to come back, right? It's not always so easy. But regardless of the depth of work that we need to do on ourselves, the people that refuse to let go of their stories, whether they had a little small story like, oh, I'm not confident speaking, and then they go to Toastmasters or something, get confident in their speaking, and boom, now they're, speaking everywhere. Or whether it's someone who's every time you learn something about yourself, you learn a whole nother layer of yourself. And every time you overcome this obstacle or piece of yourself, you realize there's another layer. Like, that's where I'm at. Like, every time I'm like, all right, I got this. Wow. Woo. God's like, all right, cool. Are you ready to go back to middle school now? And I'm like, no, I never want to remember that again. He's like, okay, cool. We'll circle back to this when you have the space to work on this. And the level of success that you have in your life right now is going to be indicative of the willingness that you are to incorporate that piece of you that wasn't really ready to be here yet. That's a whole, that was a whole thing. That's some shadow work there. Anywho, when you refuse to let go of your old stories, you're going to have it the hardest. And if you are tired of reliving these painful cycles and not quite understanding what your roadblocks are, no matter how many times you do affirmations, no matter how many times you do read books or whatever, and you're ready to start that self-healing journey, I asked in the beginning for you to comment the words interested, and I'm going to shoot you a DM so we can get you signed up for that email series and video series. Again, it's completely free. I am taking donations on the site. Drop the words interested in the comments or just shoot me a DM. If you are listening to this, just go ahead and, why did my brain go blank? I'm looking at people jet skiing and I'm like, I need to manifest a jet ski now. Drop the word interested and we'll get you signed up for that email series. And I'm super excited to hear the stories, right? That's my one ask, okay? Whether you make a donation or not, if you do this series and you get some value from it, please write a review, guys. Please leave some feedback because people don't believe it till they see it. And small businesses, people like me, like bootstrapping people, the lifeline of our business is referrals and other people attesting like, yo, they're legit. So I'm asking you, if you do type those words interested in there, I would love it if you would give some feedback on this email series and the impact that it has had for you. And of course, share it with someone that would find value from it. All right, guys, we're wrapping it up today. That was a wrap. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Be sure to share it to your stories and tag me at @𝘽𝙪𝙨 so I can share it to my story and show, hey, look, she liked it. And I love you to the moon and back. And I'll see you at Wednesday, 12 p.m. EST as we continue the Self-Healing Summer Series. I'm out. I'm going to DM you two ladies.